On average, you make about 35,000 conscious decisions every single day. If you took a second for every decision you made, you'd spend 9.5 hours a day just making decisions. I wonder how many of these I make to be happy. Decisions like the right education stream for you, the industry you want to compete in, prioritizing your health is an everyday for someone in their 20s. Now imagine having to make 35,000 decisions in a language that you just learned. I mean, you just learned how to talk about your weekend and you're adulting in French? Welcome to the life of an expat in France, where everyday decisions feel like you're deciphering a cryptic code. Make sure to remove all training wheels because you're an adult now in France. You get to do grown-up stuff like paperwork you didn't have to do back home, deal with your metabolism slowing down, make sure you're relevant in the workspace, and God forbid you have another ambition to water in the side. You can feel like you're doing so much and not getting much done at the same time. This is true especially in your late 20s when so much changes in your life. You're too young for the workplace and too old for school. It can start to feel like you're caught up in an unending loop of tasks and responsibilities, spiraling towards what we commonly term as stress. Our society trains us to be excellent students, and many of our skills we develop over the decades of organized education are not useful in the real world. So, it's all doom and gloom with absolutely no hope. Nobody in their sane minds would choose to go to school, right? I mean, at least nobody would make videos suggesting that somebody else should go to school. Who would do that? It's certainly not that black and white. As an employee, I don't spend the majority of my time listening to somebody and then cramming all my efforts a couple of days before an event, the exam. I need to show up 5 days a week and seek to make connections with people in hopes to advance my own career. I never practiced that as a student, but I've spent so much time as a student in my life that I need to unlearn that to do my job properly. Like if I'm spending downtime and watching TV at home in the evening, I feel guilty for doing that because how are your marks? You need to get the best grade ever possible. Don't ever have downtime. It's time for homework in the evening. I don't think my professional life needs that. Coming from India, I'm quite used to scrutiny. Like this professor who finds that someone in his class is using a phone, calls the guy towards him, chucks the phone against the wall, and asks the students to go pick up the scraps, bring it to him, only to throw it back against the wall again. I mean, this is how I was educated, like legitimately.
Shut your mouth! Shut your mouth!
And that's probably why in my 5 years of doing an adult job, I don't feel like an adult yet because I'm anticipating a scrutiny and I'm trying to avoid that. What my manager is probably looking for is somebody who has the spine to wrestle with the problem, find out what's not working, and then get that done. That takes a little bit of creativity, and you need to forget that scrutiny in order to be creative at work. Because as new adults, we can't seem to rest. We just have to keep doing and doing. And if you don't pay attention to what's taking your energy, then you spend your energy on meaningless tasks. In fact, we actually prioritize meaningless tasks. We choose to stop doing important stuff to prioritize meaningless tasks as adults, as new adults at least.
Stress doesn't come from hard work. For example, you can be working incredibly hard and loving it. The stress primarily comes from not taking action over something that you can have some control over.
This is precisely what I'm struggling with. And to escape this reality, I end up watching TV like that girl on the train. She can't just seem to not do, so she's busy doing. Or I'm scrolling away on Instagram, organizing these important reels into nice folders that I would never use again. I'm just being meaninglessly productive, meaninglessly busy. If you're an adult or you're trying to be one, you will find happiness in this gap between wanting and trying to do something about what you want. In your late 20s, chances are that you're single and then you have to invest time in relationships to find someone that is gonna fit your partnership goals, And to add complexity, you're doing this in a place which has a brand new culture in a new language. So this makes it a little more difficult. I also had a lot of identity crisis coming from a different culture, fitting into a new one. So all of this stuff is complex and it needs energy. And the same goes for friendships too. Because when you come into a new country, you have no friends. After running this whole marathon day at work, when you come back home, all you want to do is turn your mind off and do another meaningless task. Like order in some fried food, that's my comfort, and watch TV, that's my comfort. And I find myself scrolling on my phone while I'm watching TV because I want to be meaningless. If you don't pay attention to what tasks take away our energy during the day, then we'll just spend our evenings in meaninglessness, our whole life in meaninglessness. Oh yeah, there's another thing. When you're in your late 20s, your metabolism slows down. If you're like me and never invested time in health before, then you have to do that now. Eating healthy and spending energy in the gym or going out for a run. This takes a lot of mental energy to start doing it. And if you've spent all of it and you didn't do this thing in the morning, then you're eating unhealthy, not working out. You didn't have that in your 19s, 20s. You have that now. And when you come back home from this marathon you're running, your brain is so dead that you choose the path of least resistance because your battery is drained. You can't make nice decisions anymore. You overestimate what you can do in a day and you underestimate what you can do in a year. And that's because when you made that list, you're in probably really high energy. It came from waking up in the morning and feeling terrible about not doing anything yesterday. I'll make a list of all the 800 things I want to do today. Halfway throughout the day, I've been scrolling Instagram, so I didn't do even 2 out of those 800. It's such an overwhelming list. And then in the evening, I feel like an unproductive sloth all over again. That's why you're stressed out as an adult. I'm really proud to say that during my stay in France so far, I've nailed the language. And that has helped me to get a job that I love. I make a decent living out of it and I love my friendship and my companionship. Unlike my first year, which was definitely harder than today. I'm currently working on my fitness, eating healthy and working out. This is like really new to me and I'm failing terribly at it. But I'm investing some of my energy on this. I also like to spend time on learning Dutch and learning Urdu. This brings me a lot of like identity. I just love doing this. I also spend time making these videos apart from work, where I need to make sure that I don't slack, maintain good relationships with people around me, and think about what's next for me, professionally speaking. So all of this stuff, it takes a little bit of juggling and I have to find a way to invest energy in a little more efficient way, not waste any of my energy, because time will pass by like sand between my fingers and I will feel regret for not doing what I wanted to do. That happiness thing I spoke about a second ago. Because I often tell myself, I don't want a second job. I want to do something that I love on a Saturday morning or on a weekday evening. So instead of writing a YouTube video or shooting as I had planned, I then spend time doing something else like calligraphy and whatnot, you know. There's this vexation you feel when you have an idea and you think about it for way too long and you don't do anything about it. And then when it comes up after a couple of months, oh yeah, I had this idea. Like I wanted to make a video about this aspect in French, for instance. And since I've not done anything about it, it's a great idea. And the execution is so poor, like zero, that it causes you so much vexation and you want to like, you know, push yourself away from it. And that's what I'm facing about my old project. So I've written down some ground rules that I would like to follow. I've invested like 15, 16 projects on YouTube that I have been thinking about and not doing anything about. And I'm telling myself that I will only work on these things. YouTube is one of the other goals I have in my life. So I have that other master list, so these 2 lists of what I want to be spending my energy on. That's like step 1, knowing what I want to do. If there's a new idea for YouTube or a new task in this other list, then they have to go into a special place where I'll come back to it later. That way I can clear it off my mind. If I'm too excited to work on this new idea because it's great, then it has to replace another idea that I'm currently working on, either on this YouTube list or on that other list that I spoke to you about. I'm going to practice vacating my mind and sitting in silence. This is one of the scariest things I've ever done. I was forced to do it when I just moved to France and I had broken my leg. No internet and anything. It is a whole story. I'll talk to you guys about it another time. But I need to practice doing that again because I've just been running around the place. Before going to bed, I'll also pick a highlight for the next day from these 2 lists and then reduce the resistance for the next day by preparing for it so that when I begin the day, I can go straight into it. Finally, I'll also measure how much TV I'm watching because I rewatched the same TV show for the 5th or 6th time and this is adding absolutely no value to my life. Watching TV for fun, hanging out and just chilling in the evening is great, but watching TV as an escape mechanism and just like the same thing for the 9th time, useless stuff. And I feel like if I don't pay attention to this, time will just fly by and like Pink Floyd says, you're running and running. Nah, I don't want that.
I find as soon as I identify it and make the first phone call or send off the first email message or whatever it is that we're going to do to start to address that situation, even if it's not solved, the mere fact that we're addressing it dramatically reduces any stress that might come from it. So you're going to be a lot less stressed than if you're just worrying about it and doing nothing.
If there's something on your mind that will help me on this journey, please let me know. I can take all the help I can get. But other adulting stuff that I'm kind of learning or struggling with, I will post on my channel in the next couple of months/weeks. Definitely subscribe if you're curious to hear about that. If you like this video or it drove you some kind of entertainment/value, please hit that button. It helps the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Keep learning.
So stress comes from ignoring things that you shouldn't be ignoring.